Right, so I'm going to a place to photograph some swallows so I can test the autofocus on my OM1 along with my Panasonic Leica 100 to 400. Swallows are obviously super fast and I'm not sure yet how the autofocus is, so that's what we're going to try today. It's in the middle of the day, so the light's not perfect, but swallows luckily are mainly dark blue and a reddy orange colour, so there's not much whites there, so they shouldn't get blown out too much. I'll probably have to lighten them in post, but I need that fast shutter speed. So over here, that thing there in the middle of the lake is where the swallows sort of congregate around, so I'm going to try and photograph from there. So yeah, so it's about 35 degrees there, so it's baking, so I'll probably be dripping in about 20 or so minutes. Okay, so here we are, walking up to the place I want to take some pictures. So I think they kind of nest in the roof of this thing. There's also tree sparrows here. So basically this is a dam which is great for bugs and insect photography, but not so great for birds. So the rainy season here has just finished. We've had 2 months of constant rain, and so it's nice to see some blue sky, but it means the heat has really kicked in, so it's extremely hot today. And ideally you'd want to be taking pictures early in the morning or late afternoon, but with swallows it's difficult because I need that fast shutter speed, but therefore I need light. So it's, oh look, they're just chilling out here. I've never seen them sitting on there before. So yeah, so anyway, you need light, and sunny conditions, you know, gives you the most chance to get the highest shutter speed, but then of course you want that nice light, so it's you know, you've got to compromise, you've got to work with the settings to see what you can get. Anyway, that's what we're going to try, and then I can report on what the Panasonic Leica autofocus is like with the OM1, the OM Systems OM1. It was pretty good with the EM1 Mark III, but everything's in theory been improved in terms of the speed. The frames per second has been improved, and it's now got bird eye tracking. So we're going to put that to the test. Unfortunately, the Panasonic Leica is a pretty slow lens at 6.3 if I'm at 400. So it's not going to be like the 300 f4, which I've never used, which I do want to get, I think, for things like this. But anyway, let's give it a go. Right, so we've been here about 15 minutes or so, and because it's the middle of the day, they're all taking a nap, I think, or having their lunch. So no action at the moment, so the wait, you know, we'll continue waiting until I can really put it through. I mean, there's been a couple, but very little. I can see one out there actually on the water. So still waiting to get a decent amount of shots so I can give a proper opinion or conclusion on how this setup photographs fast moving small birds like swallows. Right, there's been a few birds the last 10 minutes. They're so fast, it's so difficult. Their flight pattern is so all over the place, so it's very difficult to follow, but I'm trying. My settings are about, I'm trying not to be at 6.3. I'm trying to zoom back a bit, but sometimes I am 400, so it's 6.3. But if I zoom back to 3 or 350, I'm at about f5.9 and about 3,200 of the second. I want to go faster than that, but it's not giving me as much ISO. The ISO is kind of high. Even though it's a bright day, it's still giving me over 1,000 ISO, which I don't really want on Micro Four Thirds. So anyway, we keep going, we keep trying. I'll keep playing around with the settings, because as I said, I've been using this for a few months now, but I still am still kind of not sure which are the best settings. So I also might give this a go. I've got a dot sight, which I use for kingfishers, which is very good, but I'm always too lazy to actually set it up properly. I just put it on and hope for the best, but I might try that, see if it helps. But yeah, we'll keep trying. It's so hot, I didn't bring a drink, so yeah, if I'm found here dead of dehydration, it's been great. I am getting some shots. As I said before, the light is against me, so I don't know if they're any good. I've switched it around. I've used the dot sight. I've used it without a dot sight. I've played with the limiter. I changed the original distance. I had an 11 limiter from 5 to 70 to 5 to 40. That means these guys move so fast that they're most of the time out of the range. I changed my thing from focus to priority, so I'm taking shots even if they're out of. I've changed from where it makes a sound to silent sequential. I was using silent sequential for about 2 minutes, thought it was broken, didn't even know what I was doing, and then realized it was taking pictures. You forget that. So trying loads of different things to see what works best. I'm still not sure. They're so difficult. Last time I photographed swallows was about a year ago, and I was sitting down over a field with water in, and they were just going from left to right, and it was a lot easier to track. This time I'm in this thing in the middle of a lake, and they're out in the lake, and they could go left, they could go right, and they go left, and they turn around and go right, and they're literally from 20 meters on my left to 20 meters on my right in a split second. I mean, it's so difficult. So it's better to be somewhere like a field where you can see the routine that they've got and you can follow them and you can anticipate where they're going to be. Here I have no idea, so this is really difficult. I mean, I'm quite experienced bird and flight shooter. I reckon my skills are okay, and this is definitely very challenging, but it's a lot of fun. And as always with this thing, that's why Micro Four Thirds is so appealing. It's just so light. You know, I've got a Nikon 300 2.8, which I used to use for flight shots. I mean, it's just so heavy. That's not fun. And I'm always handheld with flight shots. I'm always handheld basically. But I do have a Nikon 500 5.6, which is amazing. I do want to come back with that here and compare it with the D500, because I reckon I'd probably get more keepers, as in really good shots, with that setup than with the OM1. But as I said, there's so many different options with the autofocus and speeds. It's kind of difficult to know what to choose, and that's half the battle really. I think once I get completely comfortable with this camera and I know my go-to settings are, maybe then I can just come to a place like this knowing I'm going to get a lot of shots. Anyway, we keep going. So I haven't shared all the settings I'm using. So as I said, I'm about 3,200 or 4,000 shutter speed. I'm flicking between auto ISO, which is giving me about 2,000, which I don't really want, or I'm at ISO 1000 and I'm kind of adjusting my shutter speed. I'm flicking between the all box on CAF and the large box, but I think I might be getting better results from the large box. I've got, as I said, I'm flicking between the AF limiter, but I think I'm getting better images now using it, and that's about 5 meters to 40 meters. I'm not using the tracking, as I said, just using the CAF. I might try the tracking. What else is there? I'm trying to overexpose with the exposure compensation because it's so harsh. Everything's going to be underexposed and pretty dark. What else is there? I'm the 4-grid all full metering mode, not spot metering mode. I stopped using spot metering a couple of weeks ago because I thought it always overexposed stuff, especially white birds. These aren't white, but I just stopped using it, and pretty happy so far. Anything else? Yeah, I'm using the dot sight, which is basically this is a rifle dot sight, which I got an adapter to put it onto the camera. And what it means is when you fully zoom in, so this is 800 equivalent, you only see a very small section of sky. Basically it's nigh on impossible to see the bird. The dot sight lets you look through the whole sky, and you've got like a light, and you can follow the thing in the sky, but your camera is still only looking at that small. So basically it's just easier to follow the bird. But as I said, you need to set this up. You need an Allen key to get it, the dot sight in the right place, and it's not in the right place. It's kind of, I'm kind of guessing. I think it's a little bit above where it should be, so I'm basically trying to focus above, but it's not easy because they're fast. But I think it's probably helping. It was very cheap. Olympus and Nikon make specific ones for bird photography. They're quite expensive. This was the equivalent of about $20 US dollars. It's made for a rifle, but you can put it on, does the job. It's pretty well built. I've kind of cracked the glass, but it still works fine. So it's definitely something worth. As I say, I usually use it just for kingfishers, and it works really well for diving kingfishers. So yeah, I think those are most of the settings I'm using. Here a whole group of them are coming in, so I will try and get back at it. I don't know if you can see those there. So I'm just going through the pictures. Yeah, I've got so many throwaways, very few good shots. It hasn't been great, to be honest. There haven't been that many times that have come that close, and I mean, I don't really like shooting with the sky as a background. It messes the light up and it's just not a very pleasing image. I'd much rather having a nice green background, but if you look over there, the bit of green that I want, the light green, is that tiny thin bit over there, and these things fly at 4,000 miles an hour, and like chances of getting that shot in focus when they go over there, it's just so difficult. So, you know, if there's water in a field, a waterlogged field or something, and that's where you're going to get that kind of shot, not here. But no, it's been fun. I think I'll wrap it up relatively soon, but yeah, I'm not sure if I've got much decent today, but anyway, I wanted to make a video. I've been putting off making videos for so long. I wanted to try it, so this is my first effort, so bear with me. But yeah, the OM1 is a great camera. I'm not sure as yet if it's as good as other cameras at certain flight situations. The other stuff is brilliant, sort of macro, pseudo macro, tele macro, birds, static birds, animals, reptiles, frogs, those kind of things. It's really, really good. And static birds and slow birds, it's brilliant also, but I'm still trying it out with the birds in flight. As I said, if I can get 300 f4, I'm sure that would improve my keepers. But because this is a Panasonic with an Olympus camera. Anyway, thanks for watching. So I'm now back at the computer looking at some of the pictures that I took, and this first one is, well, it's relatively sharp and the colours look okay, but as I said before, I don't really like having the sky as the background, but I quite like the way that the blue and the lighter colour look meshed together. Obviously it just reached the horizon, but it's if I couldn't see the colours on the back of the bird and the face wasn't relatively sharp, this would be a throwaway, but it's not bad. It's not bad. Any swallow shot in focus is an okay shot. Just looking at the settings, this was 6.3 f6.3 2500 shutter speed at ISO 100. So yeah, right, let's look at the next shot. And this shot is not super sharp at all. Again, not a great shot. If it'd been anything other than that background, it would have been a throwaway. This is all about the background. This is the shot I wanted in my mind before I got there, and I couldn't get the shot, and this was one of the closest ones. I've done a bit of post-processing to it, so if you pixel peep, it won't look great, but as an image as a whole, it looks okay because that background's so nice. I, like lots of other people, are waiting for DxO to update, and that will make editing so much better, and it will make the files look so much better. At the moment, I'm just using Lightroom, Adobe and Topaz, and I don't really like the results I'm getting, so I'm waiting for DxO to update. But basically, I like the background. A green background looks so much nicer than the sky, but obviously swallows are usually above you. This is one of the few places I can think where they're either lower or at eye level. So, and this was a 6.3 4000 shutter speed, +1 exposure compensation, ISO 2000, and as I said, the metering mode, which I described as 4 boxes. I think it's called evaluative. So that's that shot. The next shot is just some of the birds quickly came down to sit down near where I was, and so this is just a static bird. It's middle of the day, so there's a bit of shade, so I overexposed by one EC +1. This was 6.3 200 shutter speed, ISO 500, and as you can see, they're very cute birds when they're actually still. Lovely blues and reds in there. This is a Pacific swallow, so it sat down for a very brief time. The background looked very dark, so I was very conscious to lighten up, knowing also that I was going to lighten it again in post. So the next one is, let's try this one. Again, I kind of like the transition of colours between, this was the small bit of green on the other side, which, you know, you have a split second to try and get a photo. Again, if you zoom in, this is not a sharp image, particularly if you pixel peep, it's not going to look great. But as an image as a whole, just taking up the screen, it looks okay, but it's nothing special. Again, I've had to edit it a lot. It would look way better if it got through DxO, but at least you can see the colours okay. And this was again 4000 shutter speed, 6.3 evaluative, and then +1 exposure compensation, ISO 200. Another one with the sky as a background. I don't really like it, but I like the fact that it banked, and I like the way the wings look. Again, none of these shots, only that first one really was properly sharp, and none of them are really great, but again, similar settings, 4000, 6.3, evaluative, +1, and ISO 1600. I just like the pose. Again, none of these are real keepers, they're just for the purpose of the video. Here's one coming towards the camera. This is 5.9, 4000, ISO 1000. So this one wasn't at 400mm, but I think most of the others were. While I was there were some Eurasian tree sparrows that were up on the roof, and this one jumped down very briefly. He was completely in shadow, and the background was completely overblown, so I had to edit it a little bit. But they're cute little birds, and he was just sort of making a lot of noise, so I just grabbed a picture of him as well.